Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Good Orderly Direction, Practical Tools of the Bible. Today we're discussing oaths and earnestness from Matthew chapter 5. I say to you, do not swear at all, neither by heaven, for it's God's throne, nor by earth, it's his footstool, nor by Jerusalem, for it's the city of the great king. Nor shall you swear by your own head, because you can't make one hair white or black. Let your yes be yes, and your no mean no. For whatever is more than these is from the evil one. It's important for us to recognize how important our word is. If we have to say, I swear to whatever, then clearly we're having to up the ante because our word is not enough. When you are truthful, when you are respectful, when you are earnest in what you do, when you act prudently, then people will not have to question your word. Your word will be what it is. Yes will mean yes, and no will mean no. And if you're following good orderly direction and living righteously, that's all you need. Going back to scripture. You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I tell you not to resist an evil person. But whoever slaps you on the right cheek, turn the other to him also. From a trauma-informed perspective again, it's making my spidey senses tingle. I'm like, I don't want to submit to somebody who's evil and smacking me. That's just not something that is okay. And that is not what Jesus is saying here. And this is where we need to look at the big scheme of things. The Israelites, remember I said in other videos, had turned this law into a free-for-all for revenge and murdering each other. All right, so Jesus is saying, yeah, you took that one a little bit too far. We need to go back to the spirit of the law. An eye for an eye means if you cause somebody to lose $1,000, then you need to give them $1,000 back. It's not literally an eye for an eye. When reading scripture, it's vital to first try to understand its meaning so we can prudently consider its limits. When is it okay to resist? If somebody is carjacking you, are you just going to turn your other cheek? That is not what Jesus is saying. That is definitely a time where you stand up and you protect yourself. Now, he's also not saying probably try to fight with the dude, but try to ride away. It's okay to resist when someone is acting in extreme malice. If somebody is being impulsive, they're having a bad day, they lash out at you. All right, we may consider forgiving them, addressing the issue, forgiving them, and learning from it and moving on. That's far different than taking revenge on them. And this is really aimed at letting go of that need for revenge, moving toward forgiveness and acceptance. Now, that may mean I forgive you and I accept that it happened, but I'm not going to accept you in my life anymore. I need to put some distance here. Understanding what that means in context, letting yourself be abused, letting someone else be abused, that is not what Jesus wanted. That is not good for you. That is not loving toward you. And that is not loving toward other people. So it's important to understand what was meant here. If somebody is ugly to you, setting that boundary, protecting yourself, but also being willing to recognize mild infractions and forgive mild infractions. If anyone wants to sue you and take away your tunic, let him have your cloak as well. And whoever compels you to go 1 mile, go with him 2. Give to him who asks you, and from him who wants to borrow from you, do not turn away. Thinking back to the time when people were going to court, if somebody wanted to sue you because you had done them wrong, and they want to take your tunic. They want the coat off your back. Well, give it to them. Let's figure out what they deserve in turn. And sometimes we want to go over and above. Not only am I going to settle my debt with you, I'm sorry, I'll give you back what I took or what I made you lose, but I'm going to give you a little bit more for your time and trouble. That's what he's saying here. Recognize emotional distress, if you will. And then back in this time, when in order to get messages from one part of the kingdom to the other, people would travel on horses. And if somebody compelled one to go a mile, this generally referred to the soldiers. And so what Jesus is saying here is, if your kingdom needs you to be of service, don't just do the bare minimum, but do more if you can. Thinking about how you decide when it's okay to turn the other cheek, to demonstrate love for yourself and your community, or how much you should give. If somebody wants something from you, how much do you give them? Those are all very contextual things. It's based on, number one, your circumstance, as well as what the kindest thing is. What is the most loving thing you can do, not only for that person, but also for yourself and your community. You need to consider everybody when making your decision. If I do this, then how does it impact each one of these groups? And what is the most loving choice? What is the best choice? And sometimes it's, the least bad out of 3 bad choices, but you're trying to choose the most loving response to the current situation. And again, Jesus never, ever, ever wanted us to accept emotional, verbal, or physical abuse. That is not respectful to ourselves. It makes us exhausted and scared. So we lose our saltiness. So we are not able to do what we were put on this earth to do. And it causes distress in all of those who love us. That's not love. That's not what Jesus wants us to do. So we need to consider the big picture. How do I need to respond? If Uncle Bob comes over and he's rude and maybe he's even drunk and cantankerous, all right, well, that was pretty ugly, Uncle Bob. But let's consider the big picture here. He insulted us, even if he didn't assault us, but it was not a good behavior. So do we forgive him? Do we turn the other cheek? Well, let's think. How is it going to affect Uncle Bob? Well, we need to take our issue to him and go, that's not going to work right. Remember, settle your issues with your brethren before you go to the altar with your gift to God to settle your issues and get forgiveness from him. So we need to settle our issues with Uncle Bob, but then whether we turn the other cheek and say, all right, just don't do it again, or we say, no, you can't come over anymore. How does that, each one of those decisions, you got to think about, how's that going to impact me and everybody else in my family? And then make that decision from there. And when I say family, I don't necessarily mean blood relatives. I mean the people that are important to you. It may be your recovery family. It may be your neighborhood, whoever that is. But it's important to consider what is the best choice for all involved. If this channel helps you learn more about good, orderly direction and discover ways to be loving toward yourself and others and deal with life on life's terms, please like this video and subscribe to the channel.